Hi, this is Green to Stay Eco.
And the Dean Pro Crow.
Welcome back to another edition of Bounty News, episode 8. And today's topic is the dumbing down of modern society. What do you think about that topic, Dean?
I'm feeling a little bit dumb myself.
It's not hard to feel dumb down here on the beach, the sun on you. You know, that whole Aussie, easygoing mentality just kicks in naturally, doesn't it?
We live in paradise. Or do we?
That's a good point. So, my main point with the dumbing down of society is that it's being done in this modern intellectual awakening age where innovation is increasing and the easiness of survival in aspects of producing energy, growing crops, that seems to be progressing, yet the expenses, the inflation, the cost is being burdened on the average person. What do you think, Dean?
Absolutely. I don't see there's any equitable or equality in society at all, because you've got corporations out there putting the demands on the everyday person, and basically we've become like a slave to a system. We just go buy a coffee and it costs you $12 for 2 coffees. Are you kidding me? Where else in the world other than outside? There's only 27 million people in Australia? 27 million people in Australia?
Yeah.
And we're paying $6 for a coffee.
Yeah.
In corporations, there are people out there making $600,000 a minute. How do you justify that?
Yeah. So, what do you think about this thought? Do you think that we've had a lot of these established networks of wealth takers or wealth, people call them wealth makers, but they're more like wealth takers, like companies and corporations that have been around since even prior to World War II. Now they've evolved into these super corps. Some of them are auto companies, some of them are chemical companies, energy companies, fossil fuel companies. And I don't know if you've noticed, but when I talk about the dumbing down of modern society, lately I've seen an effort by these companies to market themselves as some kind of friend of mankind. Have you noticed any of that lately, Dean?
I'm sorry, I'm still looking and I don't see it much. I see like what you're saying. I mean, they call it the drip economy. Is that right? The trickle down economy.
Oh,
is that the term that they're using now? I think it's more like a droplet.
Yeah. Or yeah. But on social media, with the development of social media, I've noticed that some of these companies are tapping into this naive generation that don't know the history of these companies. Don't know. Look, I'm not going to just browbeat them all. I acknowledge and appreciate some of the contribution some of these companies have made.
I think I'm in agreement with you there, Ian. We're not pointing the finger at anybody in particular, but we don't share a commonwealth, do we?
That's it. It's like we got to. What I'm trying to say is, I want to get this modern generation, to appreciate that a lot of these companies have established networks of wealth, which they're like fortresses. They've got that fortress mentality, and it's fine to want to protect your means of living and your reputation. That's fine, but it makes it so hard for upcoming companies and startups and young entrepreneurs to forge out their own individual pathway, because these companies have such a fortress mentality, and unfortunately a lot of the algorithms on the internet work in their favor. So what I'm trying to say is, how can we even this playing field so that humanity can progress in a more individual, wealth-creating way?
I mean, isn't that a controversial subject to talk about? Because, like, a lot of us seem to be talking about the same thing, but we don't seem to be narrowing it down to something that we could all agree upon. And can we really agree on anything at all? What are we actually doing? What are we actually standing for? And where are we aiming at trying to do something not only for the international neighbours that we've got surrounding this beautiful island of ours called Australia, and it is one of the biggest islands in the world, and it is a paradise in which we've got a balance. We've got the most delicate ecosystem in the world, the most unique species, we've got the most unique plants, flora, fauna, one of the oldest continuing cultures. We've got cultures from all over, but what is happening here is reflected overseas, and we're not cohesive. We're not coexisting. We're not united.
Yeah, and I think you've nailed it there, Dean, because I'm sure within these corporations there are individuals who probably turn up at work every day and have done that, but probably in the back of their minds they're thinking, wow, I'm working for this big corporation, but how does the average Joe Blow person on the street get a share of some of this spoil? How do they get a share when companies are taking it all? But you've nailed it. How do we come to that consensus? How do we come to that mutual way forward? You've nailed it.
We've got a great Prime Minister here in this country right now that's come from a public housing background, and he's made it to become a minister while there's still people in public housing that are making less. They're living on less than $100 a week. How do you go and figure, how do you survive in this country when it costs you $12 for a friggin' coffee, or over $100 in basic food, unless you're getting food stamps or lining up for free meals, or demoralizing and impoverishing people in a system that just doesn't support. What the hell?
Great point. That's another great point.
You look at public housing, Minister, and have a look at what you've left behind, because it is falling apart and it hasn't changed since World War II.
Great point. See, we've gone into that almost like Marvel Comics sort of mentality where they celebrate the achievements of an individual type godlike. Yes, he came from that battler's background, but how is that benefiting in nuts and bolts, in bread and milk ways to benefit everyone? It's okay to celebrate one person's achievement, but yes, we've got to get out of that Hollywood mentality, that superhero. How is that person's personal achievements, how is that going to benefit our communities?
Yeah, how does it? That's a great question. Let's hear from the public and see what you say. Come and see us at Green to Stay or Dean Pro Quo. Come and have a chat with us and join us on this discussion and get the conversation going. What do you think?
Excellent. Thanks for that, Dean. Okay, we'll sign out there, and just leave your thoughts, and Green to Stay, keep make eco fun, and we'll see you next time.